Hello and welcome. Today we're going to be talking about before you sell your business, you need to know these things. Thank you for tuning in. If you're new here, my name is Taylor Darcy from Think Legal, where I help you create the business of your dreams. So welcome. Today's episode, we're going to kind of do a brief overview of selling your business. Now, there's a lot more details to it than this, but these are the high level things that you're going to want to start with. These are the things that you're going to want to think about so that you can really make sure that you're getting the most value out of your business possible, and that if you're selling your business, that you're not going to get shortchanged, and that you are going to be a happy former business owner as opposed to an unhappy former business owner. Let's get started. Number one, you're going to want to get your legal house in order. So that means that if you're not an entity, you're going to want to form an entity sooner than later. You should have done this a long time ago, but the best time is a year ago. The next best time is now. And that's very true when it comes to your legal house and what that means to you as a business owner. Because it's a lot easier to sell a business that has all of its stuff together than it is to sell a business that you have to work on it. And so if you're thinking about selling, you probably want to start the timeline for selling about a year to a year and a half before you're actually going to sell the business, so that you can start working on these things. Because at the end, you have to work on the business while you're doing this. You just can't let the business go to crap just because you were wanting to work on the business, because you're trying to sell it and work on the business at the same time. So you're going to want to give yourself plenty of time to get your house in order ahead of selling your business. So get your legal house in order. If you're not a business entity, get yourself into a business entity. They're so much easier to sell and so much easier to evaluate. And there's just so many reasons why you want to have a business entity, especially when you're selling your business, because you're going to need to get your assets into that business entity, potentially refinance, potentially retitle. There really is a process that it's going to take. And so you don't want to try to do this quickly, or rather with very limited amount of time. You can do it quickly, but there's more likely things that are going to get lost, that are going to get missed, that you're just going to forget about. And so you really do want to give it your not full attention, but your reasonable amount of attention very early on in the process. The next thing that you're going to want to make sure that you do is, while you're doing this, is start getting a business valuation done. And there's companies out there that can do business valuations for you to give you the best value of what your company is at right now. Obviously, things could change in a year, but by having it done sooner than later, you're going to get a real idea of what you're looking for, of what you want. Because if your expectations are one thing and the business valuation comes back as another, then you can adjust your expectations. You can stay in business longer to develop it. You can make steps ahead of time to get your stuff done right. So you really want to do a business valuation towards the beginning of selling your business. It also gives you a baseline for not only selling, but also for the negotiation portion. They're going to give you values based upon your current, and that will give you something to shoot for when you're starting the process to sell the business. So that's number one. The other part of it is that by beginning early, you're going to have a smoother transition out of the business, because you won't be rushed, and it won't be, I'm trying to retire next week and I'm exhausted, or I'm tired of this business and so I'm going to retire, or I'm going to move on to something else. And you don't want it to be rushed so that something gets lost and the new owners, there's something that happens negative to impact the value of the business because you rushed it. So a smoother transition in that respect is a much safer bet for you. So keep that in mind. Early equals smoother. The next thing that you're going to want to do is make sure that you're improving any type of customer or client experience to make sure that people are well taken care of, because your real money is with them. There are other assets that we talk about, hard assets, vehicles, buildings, things of those nature, that are beneficial, but your real value is your customer list. And so if you want to improve the sale of your company, you're going to want to improve the sales of your business to your clients. So if there's been past clients or customers that have stopped using you for whatever reason, reach out to them and see if there's a way that they can use you again. See if there's something you can do to bring them back so that when you're selling it, they can be listed as part of your regular seller or regular buyers of your product or service. Because then you're going to have a more complete picture as opposed to a whittled down list that, because you didn't follow up or haven't been in touch with them. And it's not going to look as hinky if you reestablish those relationships early on before you sell, so that they're not feeling like, oh, well, that was nice of him. He just bought it or he just got this relationship back. Now he's selling, or she, whomever. So these are all going to be part of that, but make sure you're doing it with the best intent of your customer in mind. They can feel it, they can sense it, and they can certainly make the better choices if you provide them with the information. Now, I'm not suggesting they have no business knowing that you're going to be selling the company at that point, at that early, because you may change your mind. So there's no point in telling them something that may not happen. When it does come time, you're going to want to prepare them for it. And there's lots of ways that you can do that via email, via written letter, via a seminar that brings them all together and you can introduce the new owner. Something that will give you credibility in the transition. I've had where companies have said, oh, so-and-so is now the new owner. And I'm like, but I don't want them. They're not the people that I want. And so because I don't know them, I don't trust them. I don't necessarily like them yet. And so in some instances, it's not a big deal. And I'm thinking, who cares? I don't mind, whatever. But if there's a real special relationship, or a real intimate relationship, I should say, you're going to want to make sure that you're telling them and explaining to them when you're at that point. And this is more towards the end of it, more when things are finalized or getting finalized, than you are going to do this too early. But this is part of selling your business. You're going to want to make sure that they are informed so that they can stick around, because you don't want a disgruntled customer. They leave and they find somebody else. And so by beginning the process and talking with them about it and letting them know why, say, you know what, I'm just, there's other things that I'm hoping to accomplish, whatever the good, truthful reasons are. And this person is going to come in and be awesome, right? You're going to want to sell them on that. And I don't mean sales in a bad way. I just mean you're going to use your relationship with them to employ them to stay with the new company, because that's the value of the company. That's the majority of the value of the company. And if they lose that, then they lose the company and you have a very, very unhappy buyer for your company. And that's never a good idea. So you're going to want to make sure you're establishing these relationships, bring them on maybe as a, some sort of interim management position, so that they can not only get a feel for the business, but also start building those relationships with them, which is why it's so important that you're working on these things early on, so that you're not trying to do things at the last minute. These are all key to being successful in selling your business. The next and last thing is you're going to want to make sure you hire an attorney and a CPA. Those are the two crucial ones. The attorney's going to handle the paperwork. The CPA is going to handle the books to make sure. Now, this is separate from a business valuation. You're going to want to have an independent business valuation done ahead of time, and maybe one done a second time once you've changed some of your product services to better align to give you more value for the company, to bring that up to value of what you're looking to sell. One last thing I forgot to mention, if you haven't gotten your intellectual property in order, you're going to want to make sure you do that fairly early on too. Trademarks can take 6 months or longer to get. So this isn't something that you're going to want to do, but that can add to the value because you're talking about an established brand. Think Nike, think Reebok, think Apple. All of these have brands. The part of their value is that they're a brand as opposed to just a computer manufacturer, right? So by getting your intellectual property, if you have music, if you have other things that you need copyrights on, make sure you're getting your copyrights done as well, so that you can protect these assets. And that's part of the value. That comes back to building the value of your company and doing it from the beginning. And I go back to the attorney and CPA. An attorney is going to sit down and make sure you're helped with all of these things. Now, this isn't necessarily going to be an inexpensive process. Okay, so I'm not suggesting for a minute that it's going to cost you, no money to do this. To do it right and to get the most value of it, you're going to want to spend the money to make sure it's done right and that it's done correctly. Because if you're thinking about it from a return of investment, if I can get you, if you hire me to do something like this and I'm able to get you $30, $40, $50,000 more than what you were thinking you were going to get because we work on all of these things ahead of time, then the amount of money that it costs you to hire me is an investment in that, right? Your net value is substantial enough to make it really worth it. Now, a good business attorney is going to help you get the deal done, not try to shoot it down. There's lots of attorneys that will try to not torpedo, but they'll overprotect their client to the degree that it screws the deal. Like people end up frustrated because of that. And so you want to find an attorney that's more of a get the deal done and that's going to support it but is going to give you the full disclosure of all the things that are going to happen, that you understand where the areas that you might have some exposure. These are all things that a good attorney is going to sit down and talk with you about and make sure that you understand that you have some exposure. We can't lock it up too tight or it'll screw the deal for the other side. And then they walk away, and that's never a good position to be in. Those are all things that you want to keep in mind while you're doing this and while you're preparing for it. Again, start early, maybe even 2 years, depending on how big the company is, how much value you want into it, and just overall think about where you want to go with it, because there's a lot of things that can be fixed, corrected, changed within a year to 2 years. But if you're trying to do this in 90 days or 6 months, there's less that you can do to fix it. So keep these thoughts in mind. If you've gotten value out of this video, don't forget to hit subscribe and like. We go live every Monday through Friday at 11 a.m. except for holidays. Have a good day. Talk to you later.